Imagine that you spent all day working on designing the cutouts for a motherboard on a new computer case. If you'll be using that same motherboard in other designs, why not create a block to be able to easily reuse that sketch geometry? Blocks are independent, non-solving sketches that can be used in a variety of ways in SolidWorks. The most common would be to copy a sketch to be used elsewhere in your design. By creating a block, all of the entities in the block become frozen and can be manipulated as a whole. We can save blocks for later use, as well as open blocks in the SolidWorks format or any AutoCAD format, such as a DWG or a DXF file. To insert an existing block, we first need to locate it on our file system. In SolidWorks, the first thing we would like to do is actually add in the Blocks toolbar. To do that, go up here on the right-hand side in the gray area and right-click and come down here to the Blocks toolbar. Just turn that one on. As it drops it here, I'm going to place it right up here in this upper corner. The first one would be to make a block, which we'll do in the next movie, and then the second one here would be to insert a block. So I'll click on that. As soon as we click on that, we get the option to go ahead and browse to that block. And in my file system, I have it here under exercise files, and we're in chapter 10, and then we have a blocks. So I have a bunch of different blocks here we can play around with. And the one we're going to use is this last one here called Vga Cut Out. So go ahead and click on that. Notice as soon as I open that block, it actually attaches to my cursor, and anywhere I drag my cursor around, I have the ability to place that block. Now I'm just going to place it one time, and then once it's placed it one time, it continues to stay attached to the cursor, and I can place it again and again throughout my design. Also, while I'm working with it, I have the ability to increase its size or scale factor, so I can scale the block. I can also rotate this block by typing this stuff in. So I can place another instance of that same block. It's the same block, it's just this one has a rotation and a scale factor applied to it. As soon as I'm done with that, I click on OK, and there's my blocks. Now you can see underneath that sketch, I've got a bunch of different ones here that are placed. Now if I go in and edit one of these blocks, so if I click on the block itself, I can add relationships to them, like horizontal or vertical, to orient it. And we can then also place dimensions to place it in our sketch. I can also click on edit. So if I edit this block, notice all the sketch entities now become active, and I can go ahead and maybe add a dimension. So right here, it says 0.152. I'm going to change it to 0.25. As soon as I do that, look what happens. Not only does this one change, but so do all the other ones. Even though these are smaller, they're not scaled. This is 0.25, and that's scaled 2.3 times. So anything I change in this one is going to change all the other blocks. And it's the same thing if I change any one of the other ones. They'll all be changed exactly the same way. So if I edit that, notice that 0.25 now is part of that block. So we've edited the block as a whole, and then we've copied it throughout the design. We can also go back and add other blocks if we want to by just clicking here and selecting more blocks to bring them in. Just go to the same exercise files, grab those blocks, and here's a bunch of different things we could take a look at. So we can snap things on to bring in like an angle slot or a drill. Here's another block I can just place anywhere I want. So you can have as many blocks as you want. And then each one of these blocks can be operated on over here. If I right click on it, I can edit the block. I can save the block out. If I change that block at all, I can then save it as a different name back to the file system, which can be then used somewhere else. I can even explode a block. So if I click on, say, this one here, if I didn't want this to be a block anymore, I can just right click on it and I can say explode. Now that turns that back into regular geometry. Notice this dimension change as well because it applied that scale factor. Now anything I do here to change this around, it's no longer a block, so it's not going to affect the other items here. If I wanted to turn it back into a block, I could and save it back to the system, and we'll learn how to create blocks in the next movie. Blocks allow the designer to reuse sketches. If you have designed the perfect connector cutout, why sketch it out every single time? Save yourself some time and create a block, and then reuse that asset throughout your design. SolidWorks can leverage AutoCAD files if you're working with other systems and turn them to usable geometry as well.